Welcome to another Weekly Women video. Our topic for today is taking your thoughts captive. So this is how the human brain works. We have brain cells in our brains called neurons. Between those neurons are synapses, which is the way the neurons communicate with each other. Your brain wants to wire your body to use the least amount of energy to do a task, and so it forms these pathways between the neurons. The pathways are formed by repetition. So, the more you do a task, the easier it gets. For example, when you start to learn how to drive, you need to actively think about putting your foot on the clutch and then changing the gears. After a while, you become comfortable with it and it becomes more like muscle memory. This is also how our brain works with our thoughts, whether the thoughts be negative or positive. When you ponder about a negative thought now, it creates a little pathway in the brain. Then later, when you think about it again, that pathway becomes stronger. And before you know it, your whole day is awful because your mind is consumed with negative thoughts. So this reminds me of a scripture in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5. It says, "Bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ." According to this verse, we need to capture our thoughts, check them, and decide if it's in obedience to Christ or not. We can then, if we discern that it is not in line with the will of God, rebuke the thoughts and cast them out of our minds. It is also, however, possible to break those pathways that we form around our negative or bad thoughts. So I'm going to discuss 2 ways that we can break those pathways. The first one is replace the bad thoughts. We should try to replace the bad thoughts with better or more positive thoughts. The brain prefers substitution rather than deprivation. Therefore, we should replace the bad or sinful thoughts with scripture. So, when a bad thought arises, take it captive and rebuke the thought, and then replace that thought with a positive thought about Christ or a verse in scripture that you have memorized. Number 2 is stay consistent. Consistency over time is key. Neural pathways are strengthened through repetition. So, by consistently practicing positive thinking, rejecting negative thoughts, and proclaiming scripture, we can weaken the pathways of negative thinking and prevent them from forming. You will see that over time, the process of combating the negative or sinful thoughts will become easier. So my challenge for the week is let's practice to align our thoughts to those of Christ's and take every thought into captivity to cultivate a pure mind that is acceptable to God.